Are you looking for a step-by-step guide on investing in multi-unit real estate? You found the right place. Hey Daniel, play the intro. Hey, how's it going, friend? You fellow investor, you. If you're new to this YouTube channel, first and foremost, welcome. We're glad to have you. And with this channel, we typically talk about creative financing, multi-unit investing, OPM, all that good stuff. So that way you can become financially free and say goodbye to the 9 to 5. So again, if you're new, if you haven't done so already, just make sure you click the like button and subscribe so that way Google, YouTube, and the algorithm can do its thing to provide you with additional information and content that you need to reach your financial goals. All right. So without further ado, let's dive into the topic for today. So for today's topic, we're going to discuss a step-by-step guide towards multi-unit investing. So you might hear me say these terms several times throughout this YouTube channel. I talk about single-family properties, multi-units, and multifamily. You might be thinking, well, Juan, what's the difference between those three? Great question. So you pretty much know what a single-family property is, right? I'm referring to a single-family detached home. So of course, single families can relate to townhouses, condos, and stuff like that. But typically, I like to just say, standalone, detached property. Okay, one property on one parcel of land. Now, when I talk about multi-units, multi-unit is a broad umbrella that means anything more than one unit. So multi-unit can be 2 units, 3 units, 5 units, 10 units, 100 units, right? It's just pretty much anything over 1 unit. Now, when I say multifamily, just to get more particular, multifamily is anything over 5 units. Okay, 5 units and up. And why do I make those differences? Why do I share the differences with you? Well, this is the reason. It's all about financing, right? So if you're looking to get into creative financing so that way you can leverage yourself into income producing assets, then it's important for you to be able to structure your time effectively to make sure that you're focusing on a particular type of asset. Okay, so for the purpose of this video, we're going to talk about 5 units and up. Why? Because the financing is less stringent, meaning it's actually easier to get approved for a commercial mortgage, right? Of course, that has some factors in place to get qualified, but it's a lot easier than residential mortgages. Residential mortgages cover anything from 1 to 4 units. Commercial mortgages cover anything 5 and above. Why is it easier? Because the underwriters, these are the people who are combing through all the financials, the aspects of the deal to give you a yay or nay as to whether they're going to fund this deal or not. So with commercial properties, the underwriters are more lenient. Only thing they care about is the performance of that asset. They want to see the taxes of the seller, okay? This is to see if he actually claims stuff on his taxes. They also want to see the leases. They want to see a personal financial statement from the seller as well. They want to be able to make sure that this property is actually performing, meaning it's cash flowing. And 20% of their underwriting is the borrower. They do want to make sure the borrower is somewhat credible so that way they can feel confident with providing a loan on that property. So 80% is about the asset, 20% is the borrower. But with residential, it's actually the opposite. 20% of their underwriting or qualifications is based upon the asset and the performance of it. Whereas 80% is focused on, you guessed it, the borrower. So if you ever bought a single family property before, a residential mortgage, I'm pretty much speaking to the choir where you had to provide your bank statements for the past 2 months or 3 months, your tax returns for the past 2 to 3 years, your pay stubs, W-2s, 1099s. You also had to provide letters of explanation to explain why you had a hard inquiry on your credit report or why you made a deposit or withdrawal from your bank account. It's very tedious, very meticulous. But hey, if that's all you qualify for, then by all means, go for it, okay? So I just want to break that down first and foremost. All right, and if you want more insight about the differences between multifamily and single family, just check out my video below. I linked another video that discusses the difference between single families and multifamilies and more in depth. So just make sure you check that YouTube video in the description below. Now, let's get into the meat of the matter, okay? Multifamily step-by-step guide, assuming you qualify for multifamily properties, commercial mortgages, 5 years and up. I'm gonna break this down to 4 simple phases, okay? I'm just gonna give you a brief overview just to make sure I'm respectful of your time for the sake of this video. The first phase when investing in multifamily properties is this: find the money. So what do I mean by find the money? Well, you wanna make sure that you have an investment capital strategy in place, meaning it's not about just getting enough capital to buy one multifamily property. Because acquiring one multifamily property, unless it's a 200-unit apartment complex, it may not produce enough cash flow in order for you to say goodbye to 9 to 5 and quit your day job. So it's important to not only just find the money for one particular deal, your next deal, but on a repeatable basis. So that way you can acquire properties one after the other, like Monopoly. So what find the money includes not only getting approved for a commercial mortgage, as I shared, they do underwrite the property based upon performance, but they typically lend anywhere from 70 to 80% of the purchase price. It's called LTV, loan to value, which is great. But what about the down payment? How can you make sure you have money towards the down payment on a repeatable basis? So that's the first thing, is find the money before you get into the second thing, or the second phase, which is find the deal. Now I see people actually reverse those steps. What they typically do is this: they find the deal first, and then they run around like a chicken with its head cut off to try to find the money. And then what if they don't find the money? Guess what's being tarnished? You guessed it. Reputation, the credibility. Because think about it, if you put your feet in someone else's shoes, let's say the deal finder, let's say the real estate agent, you talked a good game, you might have the good gift of gab or whatever. They say, okay, cool, I found a deal that met your criteria. Here's a 8-unit, sweet deal. And let's say you don't have the money for that 8-unit. And let's say you're doing this on a wish and a prayer, right? Like, oh, I do have this potential partner, but I don't know if he's 100% committed, or I do have access to this one loan, but I'm just not sure if they'll actually approve it or not. And if that deal falls through as a result of you not being able to solidify the financing, guess what? That deal finder, that agent, may not answer the call from you moving forward. And especially if you're investing in a particular area, if you're investing now in single family, you probably noticed that it comes to a point where everyone knows everybody, right? And your name will just be tossed around in their offices or at home to the point they'll say, you know what, this dude is a time waster. He's a PTW, a professional time waster. So don't even bother responding to this dude's text messages, emails, or phone calls. I hate to say it. So I'm listing these 4 steps for this guide to multifamily in sequential order. So you have to do the first thing, then the second thing, and so forth. So it's an order of importance, okay? So you find the money. Now, let me dive deep into finding a deal. So when you're finding the deal, you want to make sure that you find a deal that fits your pockets, your purchasing power, in other words. So you want to make sure you're very specific and particular in communicating what type of deal you're looking for. Because if you're sharing with a deal finder, let's say an agent or a wholesaler, that you want a 20-unit apartment complex or a 20-unit apartment building or what have you, but you only qualify for a 10-unit, then you're wasting that person's time. So you want to make sure that you have the money available, and you want to know about the market as well, because you don't want to reach out to a deal finder and you're picking their brains about the market. And do you think I can invest in an 8-unit, or you think it might be best for me to invest on the south side in contrast to the east side? A deal finder doesn't want to be your mentor, right? I'm the people's mentor. I'll mentor you, right? You can just check out my video below that I have in here about mentorship and so forth and guidance. Just check the link in the description below. But they don't want to do that. All they want to do is fetch you a deal. Now, I don't mean that to offend anyone who's a real estate agent, not saying that you're a dog and you just fetch, but in essence, that's what they do. Meaning, not saying it's a bad thing. What they're basically communicating, the real estate agent, is, hey, tell me exactly what type of deal you want, and I'll find that deal. But if you're vague, if you're ambiguous, if you're unsure what market to invest in, or your model, or you're unsure about the deal itself, they're not going to invest with you, or they're not going to do business with you, because they'll perceive you as that PTW, that professional time waster. All right, but let's say you did those first 2 things right. Let's say you found the money and you found the deal. Now we're getting to that third step, which is performing due diligence. I wish I had a hat, but I don't have one available right now, so we're just going to improvise. What you have to do is you have to take off your hat of being an investor during this phase and put on a different hat. This is a heavier book because it's supposed to, I guess, communicate as more detail and thick. You got to put on the hat of being an investigator, meaning you're investigating all the numbers, right? It's not about, oh, I found a sweet deal. Well, is it really sweet? Are those leases actually real? Are they legit? Are those expenses understated? So that way it looks like a sweet deal? Is this property really in good shape? Or is there some hidden repairs that are needed that the seller doesn't want to discuss? Right? And also with all these negative things, how can you capitalize off this? So that's the third step. You got to do due diligence with a fine-tooth comb. This is a part of real estate investing where you have to be meticulous. You have to be anal. So you might have some relationships with people who are meticulous and anal and like things to be a perfect way. I'm kind of like that, right? And I know I can rub people the wrong way, especially in personal relationships where I want things a certain way. And I think it's the byproduct of being a real estate investor, because you have to. Because if you really think about it, let's say you found the money was through partners. And these people were investing their hard-earned cash with you. And then you find a deal. Whew, it looks good on paper. And if you do an inadequate job of performing due diligence, you weren't meticulous and combing through all the revenue, through the leases, or you weren't meticulous in regard to all the expenses or the condition of the property, and you close, then all those things you missed out on, that you swept under the rug, that you didn't look at with a fine-tooth comb, it's going to come to light. And when it comes to light, it's going to have a negative impact on the cash flow, okay? So you want to make sure you do good by your partners and your time by doing proper due diligence. Now that leads me to the fourth step. I just mentioned it, right? The fourth step is close. This is when you're on the final lap. You're almost there. This is the point where you're scheduling the closing, you're getting property management in place, you're getting the exchange of the keys, the lease agreements, the hard copies and all that good stuff, and you have a sound exit strategy in place. So those are the 4 phases, my friend. Find the money, find the deal, perform due diligence, and close. So those are the 4 main steps you need to take in order to acquire multi-unit rental properties on a repeatable basis. All right, guys, so if you're interested in learning more about this, just make sure you keep an eye out for my YouTube ads, right? You might be thinking, keep an eye out for your YouTube ads. Well, yeah. For this YouTube channel, I really want to focus on providing really good quality content. So that way I can help you on your journey to becoming financially free. So if you see the links in the description, you'll see links that relate to other YouTube videos. However, if you're looking for more in-depth, step-by-step training of how to put these things that I mentioned into place in an organized fashion, then that's what I present on the YouTube ads. So if you see an ad with my face on it, whether I have this hairstyle or not, because I'm thinking about switching it up. But if you see an ad with my face on it, don't click the skip button. Make sure you watch in its entirety so you can get access to the free training that I have available to you. And guess what? No sales pitch attached. All right, guys, as always, this is to your success. Continue to earn passively and live passionately. Peace.